Will the clerk please call the roll?
Dan Miller.
Present.
Bill Decker Senior. Bill Decker the second.
Present.
Jim Wisco.
Present.
Susie Litz. Ben Mahan.
Present.
Josh Barron. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to invite Matt Porter to come forward to offer tonight's invocation. If you would stand, and please remain standing for the pledge.
May we pause to remember those within our community who have passed in recent days. I'd like to share with you the words of President Gerald Ford as he prayed them in 1977, and I believe they are fitting for our city as we come to the close of our bicentennial year. May God guide this wonderful country, in our case city, its people, and those who have chosen to lead them. May our third century be illuminated by the liberty and blessed with brotherhood, so that we and all who come after us may be humble servants of thy peace. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You received in your packets the minutes from the Monday, September 26th meeting. Are there any corrections or additions? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion, I make a motion that we accept the minutes as written.
The motion made to accept the minutes as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
The motion made and seconded. I don't think Councilwoman Miller's mic's on.
If the buttons are up, they should be.
Our button is up.
If it's up, it should be on. If the little white button is
It's up, but it's not on.
down, it's off.
Her button is up,
Yeah. So
but it's not on. Tapping, please. Sorry.
Try it again.
I hear it now.
Bingo.
Thank you.
Been a motion made and seconded to accept the minutes as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed no. The motion carries. Thank you. Again, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but would encourage everybody to sign up for the rave notification. I think we're getting close to having 1,000 citizens signed up on this. Great way to receive notification. Several of them went out this weekend in regards to the fall festival, the parade, the run, and then we had some water orders that came in today. So again, please encourage everybody to sign up for that. And again, very simple. Text the word Martinsville to 78015. That's my commercial now, so. We need to conduct a public hearing in regards to our budget this evening. So without objection, we will recess for the purpose of the public hearing. And so now we will ask Mr. Jeff Peters to come forward and lead us into this discussion in regards to our budget.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, for the opportunity to be here to help. As we look through the 23 budget and assisted in getting this into the gateway and evaluating it overall, the operating funds for the city are balanced revenue to expenditure, but for the amount of the sanitation utility expense, which is unfunded in 2023. And as we've talked about over the last couple of years with the sanitation expense, you imposed a fee toward helping to reduce that subsidy that you currently have for trash service. You move those funds out into their own fund, like a utility similar to the water and sewer. That amount is fully budgeted for 2023, but it is still short about $680,000 of revenue, which is essentially half of what the service costs. So for 2023, you will need to include approximately $680,000 in your general fund budget in a department for the sanitation expense. And this is what you did prior to last year. Last year you had both cash that had been collected and the revenue from last year to cover those expenses, or for 2022, I should say, this year. The city does have sufficient cash reserves to cover this $680,000 imbalance in the sanitation fund, the utility. However, you can only do this for a couple of years, you'll run out of cash. So at some time in the future, you're going to have to choose a different methodology of how you're going to pay for that and fund it. The 23 budget also provides significant capital outlays for necessary projects throughout the city. The budget includes as well repayment for all of the outstanding bonds and leases, including the 2022 RDC bonds, which will provide additional sewage and sidewalk projects for the city with no anticipated tax rate increase. The assessed value for the city is up almost 25% from the previous year. We've seen this across the state. I don't know that I've exactly seen a 25% increase, but we have seen substantial increases all across the state based on the inflated values of real estate. So this is good in the fact that it will reduce the overall tax rate for the taxing districts and the taxing entities, including the city. This should reduce any amount of or some additional circuit breaker credits in the 1%, 2, and 3% tax caps that you lose in the taxes that you levy but don't collect. But that won't be a material amount for you. The currently outstanding 2018 GO and the capital improvement bonds both pay off with the 2022 tax levies. So as we talked about before, you approved the bond to begin payment next year. Those two will expire. This one will essentially take its place. Beyond the capital projects that are built into the 23 budget, the city still retains cash reserves even after this 23 budget is funded in local road and street, motor vehicle highway funds for road projects, and the CCD, riverboat, and food and beverage funds for other capital or operating projects. So all in, the budget is balanced, but for the sanitation expense, you've got a lot of capital appropriated for 2023 to undertake projects. You still have cash in reserves. All in all, you're in really good shape. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, big picture, or we can go into any questions specifically in the forms through Gateway if you have those.
One thing I want to ask, Jeff, you made a comment that we're $600,000 going to be short, and we've got the money in our general fund that we could cover that, but since the sanitation is a utility, it would have to be a loan from the general fund to the sanitation department that would have to be paid back, or?
That is not how I structured it for 23. I actually put it back as a department of the general fund, so you will just pay that out, and you will increase your general fund cash by that amount, but you won't have any transactions after that. Just the way you did it prior to raising trash fees.
What do you mean we won't have any transactions after that?
You won't have any transfers. As the mayor was talking about, if we loan money from the general fund to the utility, then at some point in the future, when you pay the utility, you would then transfer money back to the general fund to pay it back and make it whole. That's not how I structured this. I structured this as you approved against the fiscal body the expenditure of $680,000 in 2023 from the general fund for sanitation service. So once those expenses are paid, it's in the books and done.
Were we able to, I know last time I was here when we were discussing the salaries and things, I know there's some, that 5% increase, I don't know if we're going with. Did we get, some of them did not come out to correct amount of 5%? We got that all taken care of?
Those are all correct.
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Any other comments from Mr. Peters? Thank you for coming out this evening.
Thank you.
Before I open the floor up for a public comment, I just want to remind everybody that the public hearing is strictly on the 2023 budget. Any questions or comments you have need to be made toward the budget, not another item. So, at this time, is there anyone in the audience who would like to make a comment? Okay. Seeing that no one coming forward, then the public hearing on the petition for the budget is closed, and without objection, the common council is back in session. First item on the agenda for this evening, after the public hearing, is the first reading of the city budget. Again, you heard from our financial advisor, Jeff Peters, in regards to the budget. Again, are there any questions or concerns to address to him? Okay. At this time, since this is the first reading of the budget, no further actions taken. The second reading and consideration of the budget will take place at our next meeting, which will be October 24th. Next on tonight's agenda is the adoption of a comprehensive plan update. Mr. Oakes.
Good evening. The Planning Commission has been working on an update to our comprehensive plan. The last version of that was 2017, in anticipation of I-69 coming through, not knowing exactly how or what we're going to come and how it's going to be affected. So the Planning Commission, with a steering committee, engaged HWC Engineering to update our comprehensive plan that was now 5 years old. The city of Mooresville is doing the same thing with HWC, the county is doing the same thing with HWC, so we have consistency of what the documents say, they don't oppose one another. So the Planning Commission has, at their last meeting, approved this version of the 2022 comprehensive plan and recommended to you its approval this evening.
Any questions for Mr. Oakes or Mr. Coffey in regards to, and this would be Resolution 2022-21. Then I would consider a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve resolution number 2022-0021. The adoption of comprehensive plan.
Been a motion made and seconded to approve the resolution. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary. Claims, you were sent a copy of claims prior to tonight's meeting. Are there any comments or concerns in regards to the claims? Again, hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Make the motion to approve claims.
Second. Been a motion made and seconded to approve the claims as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion carries. Any comments from the council tonight besides, welcome back?
Thank you, thank you. If you don't mind, I just got a couple, so I'm trying to get back to speed of everything and try to follow along, but do we have anything on, updates on like the ARPA money projects that we were working on with that, or we designated anything? I know there's a few things we were talking about beforehand.
The ARPA money, correct me Ben if I'm wrong, those were the funds that we're using to use for the lift station over in Artesian Acres and Artesian Boulevard. I think it's 2.6 million.
Yes, yeah, I think we do have to draft an ordinance. The council will have to approve that so we can release those funds for that project though.
Okay.
Yeah, we have to do a resolution.
Resolution.
That would, the council would approve for that. I think, we were identifying the use of those for, water and sewer extension, I believe. Am I correct, Mr. Oaks?
That's right.
Okay.
Was some of that used on, so how, or
Yes.
South Street, Ohio Street?
The Hannah Farm project is, right at $3 million. We have 2.6 through those funds, and the rest of it was general funds going forward. So we have a sewer availability account that Becky's helping us. The rest of the pieces come together that way.
And how are the Ohio Street and the South Street projects going?
Fantastic, you let it down there.
I know.
We started curbs today down at South Street, so if you go down that way, you can see the right turn lane that we're adding because of where that curb is gonna be, so that's the first step. All the piping is under the ground for both water and stormwater.
Good, thank you.
And then they will not start Ohio Street until spring.
Spring, yeah, we have a pre-con meeting Wednesday this week, I believe.
I appreciate that.
Any other comments from the council?
I have a couple things, but, first of all, do we have a deadline to adopt redistrict, updated districts? I mean, I'm at
Yeah,
large. but
December.
Oh, is that
And, yeah, and so, since I've been down, obviously I've not been able to do anything, but I was gonna get with Dell afterwards to see about, when we could start planning on getting them in here, but, yeah, if I'm not mistaken, in December, correct, Dell?
It is, we have a meeting set up, on Thursday of this week with a representative from Banning.
You should send an invitation to that meeting.
I haven't received one.
It should be in your inbox.
Okay, I think I'm just sending to the calendar,
Your
so,
Outlook calendar.
Okay.
Your Outlook calendar.
okay. Was that sent out today maybe, or?
No, they were sent out late last week.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you can make it, Phil, we set it
No,
up.
absolutely, let me check to see what.
3:30 on the 14th.
Thursday, October 13th, thank you, it's in the calendar.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't.
So, the gentleman from Banning will take us through, what he did for the county and what he can do for us. I think his quote was significantly less than the previous one we had, Mr. Deckard. So, I think he's got good things to tell us. So we should be on target and be able to do that, before the deadline. So, yep.
And the other thing I wanted to mention, maybe just for thought and discussion, and of course it's, maybe right in my face or neighborhood office a little bit, but especially with the project, the new stage, and which looks great. What is planned or discussed to be planned as far as monitoring that at night? And I mean, there's been on Pike Street, kind of behind it, there was, I'm not so sure that somebody, it happens from time to time, we hear about somebody living or parked in a van there for a long time. And of course, right before they put the fence up that blocked off the alley by my office, we had some folks sleeping, like, up in my back porch. And I'm not unsympathetic to that at all. Of course, I think every community in the country struggles with how to handle that issue in a humane and Christian and supportive way, while at the same time, the problems that it brings with it. So I don't know, but I'd be concerned about the bad consequences in the middle of the night at our new stage, and/or some of those things are maybe things we need to think about how to address anyway, notwithstanding this stage.
You can chime in whenever you want. want to, but there's 12 different cameras we'll have up there monitoring that entertainment area. You're right, the homeless situation is something that is becoming more and more to everyone's awareness. And we have reached out to some other communities through the AIM network to ask, what their ordinance is, what they have, and what can they do. A lot of the homeless, if you talk to them here, there's places that they could possibly go, but they choose not to, for whatever reason. So our police officers, we've asked to, like over here at Veterans Park, after 9 o'clock, there's not supposed to be anyone in there. There's been a couple people have been sleeping there. Our officers have been moving them along. But it's not fair to our officers to say, hey, get going, and not have a suggestion where they can go. So we want to look and see what we can do and where we can address and help these people get to. Cold weather's coming up, and we need to try to do whatever we can, but you're absolutely right, Jim.
I don't really know a good answer. I took a look at other ordinances and searched too, and everywhere from large cities to cities and towns smaller than us. How do you balance constitutional rights, civil rights, and humanity versus some of the bad things that come with some of those folks in the problem? But anyway, I think it's something we should talk about because it's a concern already, and who knows if that'll be more.
Well, I think there's a couple of things we need to look at with our ordinances. One is for the homeless situation. What can we do? What do we need to amend? Do we have anything that's really pertinent to this day and age? Do we need to do a study amongst ourselves, have a workshop and discuss, what can we do? The other thing, a couple other ordinances that I've had some folks a little upset about are the parking ordinances that we have. We have specific ordinances in regards to commercial vehicles, overnight vehicles, and so forth that we need to look at and see, do we need to update these? Do we need to enforce, what do we need to do? And the other one that some people have been upset with are the temporary signs. We're coming into election time. Election signs are a little bit different under our ordinance, but there are some signs that are temporary that, the ordinance reads 30 days. But how long does it have to be gone before it can come back? So there's some questions in regards to those. So those are 3 ordinances that we really need to look at in the next few months and figure out what we can do to update them, to make them current to our situation.
Mayor, I think I listened to also your last mayor's show. You, I think, addressed the issue about the demo of the Chrysler building.
Mm-hmm.
We had the asbestos out, right?
Yes, the asbestos.
What's the status of that demo going on now?
Mr. Denham, correct me if I'm wrong, all the asbestos is out. We're waiting for the contractor that's going to be doing the demolition, the Ferry Group, to file a document with IDEM.
It's a demolition notice with the state.
And that has to be filed in 10 days after that, and they can come in and start taking the building down.
Okay.
So we're ready to go. We're just waiting for them to get the documentation filed.
Grants and everything's good for the design and it's ready to roll, or police station, do they?
That's going to be some things that you'll be passing the next couple of meetings as far as the bot authorizations and stuff.
Okay. And how about, I know they did a nice job of moving the detective house back here. Have we got any, have we received any input or plans on the building over here for?
No, not at this time. We figured let's get the police in there. They're driving us nuts here, and so we want to get them out of this building. No, let's get them, and then we'll look and see what we're going to do at City Hall.
Thank you. I just want to try to make sure I'm still up to date on things, and I apologize for the missing of this. So.
Well, you can't help it.
Yeah.
I have a question. I thought fall foliage was fabulous. I thought it was really nice. I had a lot of good compliments. Hometown Nutrition, though, was a little upset that they had those trailers parked in front of their business, so they didn't get, they didn't have a ride in front of their business, so they didn't get people in front of their business. who's in charge of that? I really, was that Fall Foliage, or they're the ones that determined where those trailers went?
Yeah, that would be addressed for the fall festival.
That Fall Festival, okay, so they were in charge of that, okay. That was just, you know, something from a local merchant that was, I went there this morning and they were a little upset that they were, you know, didn't have a lot of traffic in front of their business because of the trailers. Thought I'd just pass that along.
That would need to be addressed with the fall festival.
Fall Festival.
And one of the things that Mr. Porter brought up, you know, some people couldn't understand why we blocked the streets off on Tuesday. Well, the rides that are brought in and set up have to be inspected by the state before they can go on Thursday. So that's why we need Wednesday as a setup day to make sure the rides are safe. And you're absolutely right, the most beautiful festival we've had in a long time. The weather was perfect, there was color in the trees. And I think that made everybody a little happier, and then plus the festival was back downtown.
Yes.
And I know the business you're reference to, this would have been their first festival to experience what goes on, but they normally block those streets, and that's where they put their sleepers and things. In the past, there's been some, maybe a ride halfway up on that block, but, you know, they used to go out to the fairgrounds, but then decided they wanted their sleepers down here.
Right, I guess they said that they would have known that, they would have put like maybe a little temporary location in one of the tents or over by where the food vendors were, if they'd known that they were gonna have a trailer right in front of their business, so.
Mayor, I would like to commend the city administration employees for the Fall Foliage Festival, from getting it ready, sweeping the streets, to the text messages on the closing of the streets, and clean up afterwards. I think they did a great job getting things out, and I thought it was clearly labeled with no parking, everything along the streets, and you know, so Frankie on Sunday, the crews were out picking everything up and getting things back ready for the day. So I would like to thank the administration and the city employees all for their hard work.
Well, you're welcome, and I'm sure they'll appreciate that, because so many times our city employees get overlooked and underestimated, but they do a fantastic job for us. Chief Green, did you?
I just was gonna say, if you talk to them, have them get a hold of me, and next year we can work something out over there in that corner where it's visible for them.
That's good, thank you.
Any other comments? I got one more thing before I open up to the public. A few months ago, we had a private citizen that wanted to offer a reward for graffiti around our new bridge area. It was $1,000 if they had pictures that would lead to a conviction for that. That has now been raised to $2,500. So we have an individual that is willing to do that because they do not appreciate seeing our city vandalized in this manner. And it's not just for the bridge, it's any of the city's properties. So, any comments from anyone here this evening?
Back to Jim's question about the homeless, just a public service announcement. Who's your action on the 24th, which is the next meeting night that we have, is having a meeting over at First Christian Church to address those kind of issues.
When is that? 24th of
Yeah,
First.
Same time we're here.
At the same time we're here, they're having one over there. So, okay. Well, if there's nothing else to be brought from the council, we are adjourned.